Hi friends, it's Shari. Today I have a fun set of thank you cards to share with you. This set uses one stamp set and the add-on and one sheet of 12 by 12 paper. So all of my backgrounds came from this one sheet of Fairy Godmother 12 by 12 paper from the Rainbow Ever After collection, and I got 4 different backgrounds just in the way I cut this down. So I am going to cut a strip at 4 1/4, and then I am going to cut 2 pieces from the front side at 5 1/2. So this one is yellow to green, and this one is going to be green to that pretty peachy pink color. Then I'm going to take my same 12 by 12 paper and cut another 4 1/4 strip and flip it over to the B side of this paper, give myself a blue to green and a green to pink. So look, I have 4 different backgrounds all from the same sheet of 12 by 12 paper. And don't worry, that piece that's left over, we're going to use that too. So we are going to incorporate this whole sheet into our projects. I have both the landscape and the portrait tree branches backdrop. I'm going to cut both of those from some kraft cardstock. So that is going to be kind of my neutral accent color that follows through all of these cards today. I just think that this craft color with these soft pastel gradients is so pretty. So I'm going to start pairing them up with the way I want them. So I have the blue to green, and this one is so pretty. It might be my favorite. It looks like a sunset. Now I have my other 2 sheets here, and I'm going to do something a little different with these. I'm going to use the lacy rectangle. I am going to cut a lacy rectangle from Kraft, and then I'm going to use the coordinating small stitch rectangle that fits inside that lacy rectangle to cut my pattern paper. So for this one, I'm going to have a big lacy rectangle, and then we'll have that beautiful purple to pink that layers inside, so we'll get that craft frame around it. Now for my other one over here, I did do something a little different. I wanted this one to have a smaller frame, but I wanted that gradient to look like it went from the background outside edge mat to the inside. So I'm going to take the small stitch rectangle that coordinates with this lacy rectangle, and I'm going to actually cut it out of the center of this paper. So I'm using one piece of paper, and it is going to look like a continuous gradient. Do have my lacy rectangle cut from white here. I thought about doing white for this one, and then I decided they all needed to be craft. But to line up my rectangle in the center, it wasn't quite in the center. I decided to pull it back up, layer it on the back side of my lacy rectangle. It already has the tape on it. And then I can use the lacy rectangle as my guide to make sure it's nice and centered. So I will be cutting this lacy rectangle out of kraft also and using it on this card. I was going to make this one different, but I like the consistency of the kraft across the board. So you can see there, even though this is white at the moment, that when you layer this on there, that gradient is going to look like it's continuous from the background piece to the center piece, which I just think is a really cool look. So I have my 2 cards that are the tree branches backdrop, and then these 2 cards will be the lacy rectangle. So here you can see I have changed that out for a craft one, and it just looks consistent with the others up above. I just think that these look so cool with those beautiful kind of storybook gradients and that soft craft color paper. Now, I'm making thank you cards today, so I went and pulled out a whole bunch of thank you sentiment dies. So I have the giant thanks so much. That's going to go on that one there on the right. I have my Scripty thanks, which is one of my favorite sentiment dies. I also have the giant thank you, which I think I'll put on this landscape one here. And then the giant outline thanks, which is going to go along the bottom of this portrait tree branches card. I am going to cut all of these giant sentiments out of the same cardstock, so these all kind of match. And I am using narwhal cardstock. So you can see I have them all cut out here. This is a really easy way to make a whole bunch of cards if you just use the same color schemes and kind of change up your designs a little bit. So I'm just kind of sorting them. I know you can't see my card bases. They're off the top of my screen there, but I was just sorting them to go with the card bases I had already started. Now I do want a little bit of shimmer and shine to this kind of magical background I'm creating. So I am using my gold metallic watercolors and adding some metallic splatters to all of these. Now for these 3, I did it all over the background. But for that one that I cut the smaller square out of, I'm only doing it to the outside border. So when I assemble this card, the inside piece will not have the splatters, which is kind of a cool look as well because you get a little bit of difference between the outside and the inside. Once those splatters are dry, I am going to go ahead and start to assemble some things. So I am putting that gradient paper right onto my card base. Then I'm taking my tree branches backdrop cut from that craft cardstock and just adding some liquid glue around all four sides and some little dots of glue on the back of the branches. And then I will put this together and let that dry. I'll repeat that same process with my other tree branches backdrop card. So this is that landscape version. Again, using liquid glue, this makes sure it sticks down really nice, and I like to use liquid glue on small little spaces like these leaves. Next, I'll move on to those two cards that have the lacy rectangles. As you can see, I'm kind of working in batches here. I cut my background all at the same time. I splatter them all at the same time. I cut all the craft pieces at the same time, as well as the sentiments, and now I am layering it onto my card bases. For this one here, I will put that onto the craft and then I will put the whole craft rectangle onto a card base so you see the white peek through those little lacy scallops on the sides. Now here is that piece that was left over from when we cut down the 12 by 12 sheet, and I am going to use it for some other elements on my card. Starting with that solid thanks, this one layers behind the outline, and I picked a part of the paper that is that bluish green color because I know this one is going on to the card that has the pink yellow background. So I want the pieces that are layering over top to be the opposite colors. You're going to see that theme kind of happen in all the cards that I create today, starting with this outline things. So you can see I've glued that outline on there and that's going to really pop on that warm color background. So again with the leaves I did the same thing. I took that piece that was left over, I found my areas of yellow and pink and cut a bunch of leaves. You can see I have a whole bunch on this little plate too with the purples and the greens and the blues. So for this one that has the background of the blue and green, I only use the yellow and pinky colored leaves. And then for this one that has the peach to yellow background, I will use the purple and the green and the blue leaves for this one. So again, using the opposite colors from what the background is, and I just think these turned out so pretty. They look like a storybook. They just look so magical. Now I'm taking my sentiments and I'll start adding those to my card. For this one, I'm just gluing it directly to the background. This one really takes up the whole card, but I'm going to add some stamped images to this and I will pop those up with foam around my sentiment to give some dimension. For this outline things, I did add some foam strips all over the back, so it will be popped up off that tree branches backdrop and will have some dimension along the bottom. I am going to do the same with the giant thank you, so you can see I've put those little foam strips all over the back. This does take a little time, but I think it is such a valuable thing to do to make that sentiment really pop up off the card. So I'll just center this right in the center of this one. I will add some images to that as well. And the images I'm using today all come from Backyard Bird Feeder and the Backyard Bird Feeder add-on. And I did kind of plan out what images I wanted on which card before I started. So what you're going to see me do here is kind of trace with a pencil which ones go together so I can know which ones go together and color them as such. I know you might not be able to see that pencil line and those little groupings probably don't mean a whole lot to you right now, but hopefully they will as I start to color. Because just like I did the elements cut from the pattern paper, I want to color my elements that are stamped in opposite colors as well. So you'll see what I mean. I'm starting with the bird feeder from the add-on. This one is going on the card that you see on the screen right now. So my background is the warm colors. So I am sticking to the cool colors for my images. So I have a purple birdhouse. I'm also trying to keep these colors really light and pastel, which is kind of hard for me because I like to do things really bright. So this was a challenge to kind of use the colors in that pattern paper as a guide for my coloring. So while I'm here coloring some seeds, I'm just gonna hop on over to this other bird feeder and color those as well. This one is going to go on the card that has the green and yellow background. So you're gonna see me color that bird feeder in pinks here in just a minute. So you can see I pulled in that background that's going with this one, and I'm just gonna color that in with a light pink. That really matches the pink on the card that you can see to the left there. Now for my birds, I want to do the same thing. So for the birds that are going on this card that you see, I am making them all bluebirds. I'm keeping it pretty simple and trying to color all the birds on one card the same. Not make it too complicated, not bring in too many colors. And then, of course, some orange beaks. I just went ahead and colored all their beaks. And then for the accents on these birds, I decided to go with that pinky color. I did add some darker blues to their heads so they don't have too much pink on them, and I'm adding a little bit of texture and shading with some dots of that color. I did bring in a darker pink just to add some shading, and I added that to that other bird feeder as well. Now for the branch, that is going on the card where I cut out the small rectangle. So you can see I pulled over that small rectangle so I could see the colors. So for this one, a little bit non-traditional, kind of like the leaves on the other card, I'm going to color these in yellows and pinks. This is going to go at the top where you see the green. But I think it's kind of fun to color these leaves in something not green, a little less traditional. Now for the branch, I was worried I would color this too dark, so I was trying to be really, really careful with the colors I chose and to not make it too saturated because I wanted to keep that kind of pastel-y, dreamy look to these cards. So I am going in with some lighter browns, making sure I don't make it too dark, and then blending out with a really pale kind of creamy brown at the top. Now this card only has one little bird that's going to sit in that bird feeder, and I decided to go with those BVs, so that kind of indigo purple color, and give him a little yellow belly. And I'm also going to grab a darker version to add some shading and make the wing a little darker as well. So just like that, I have colored all the images for 2 of my cards. Now I'm moving on to images on another sheet that I stamped out here. This one with the giant thank you is going to have both of the squirrels. So I'm coloring those in the E70s. So I used E71 and E70 to blend that out. And then, of course, I need to color his little seed. I did make that one a little bit darker. And then I have one bird that's going to be flying, and to stick with my kind of rule of coloring them in a different color than the background, I am coloring this bird in a pink color because the background is the blue and the green. So I have a pink bird with a little yellow belly, and of course, I'm coloring all of their beaks orange. So I'll grab that yellow and finish him off. So only those 3 images will go on that card. Then finally, my thanks so much. You can see I've pulled that over so I can see the colors. I am going to add a little bit of green to this one, which is the first time I pulled any green in, but I think it will be fine because there's no green on the background. And then I am going to color all my birds in yellow and pinks and oranges. So I have a couple stamped on this sheet over here. But again, making sure all of those birds, and there are 5 of them on this card, to keep it simple, I'm just making sure they're all colored in the same Copic marker colors. And honestly, the real beauty of these cards is that beautiful background, and these little birds just add some more cuteness to it. So once I'm done coloring all these little birds and bird feeders, of course, I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut everything out. And as I cut them out, I kind of put them in my little piles with the card bases I had already put together. And so they are all kind of sorted into their houses of where they're going to go. So I am adding foam squares to the back of my 2 little squirrels and my little bird to add to this card. This little squirrel here is going to go up on that branch on the right, which I think is really cute. So that one is done. Now I'm moving on to this one that has a bird feeder. So I have my little bird sitting on top of the sentiment, which I think is always a really fun way to put these little critters. I have my one on the bird feeder, so I just added that with a little bit of liquid glue. And then for this bird feeder, I'm actually going to use some white twine. So you can see I put some foam squares all over the back, but at the top, I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue, add my twine, and then stick a foam square over top of it. So now I can pull off all of those liner paper on the squares. I will take my bird feeder and place it where I want it to be. Then I'm going to pull my twine up towards the border at the top, add a little bit of liquid glue, and then pull my twine to the back of my card, and I'm going to hold it in place with a little bit of removable tape until it dries. Then with the leftover piece that I trimmed off, I'm going to make a bow and add that with a little dot of glue. Now I will say, when I was editing this, I thought, I never cut off the back of that string, so you won't actually see me do it, but once that glue at the top is dry, I took the tape off and trimmed the string off at the top of the card. Now I'm moving on to this one that says, "Thanks so much." I added that little pile of seeds directly to the background, but then I popped up the bird that's beside it. And I'll do the same with the little flowers. They are directly on the background with some liquid glue, and then I'm popping up the little bird that goes beside the flowers. For these other little birds, I thought it would be fun to make them look like they are sitting on the sentiment. So this one inside the O just makes me smile. We have this one at the top that's kind of landing on the S, and then we have this last one flying in from the left side. Now on to my last card. This one has the smaller panel. I'm going to put my branch across the top with some foam adhesive, but before I stick this down, I want to stamp the hanger that the bird feeder goes on. And I'm using some River Rock ink, which is a gray ink. I'm going to stamp it down right from the center of this panel. Now, there is a die, you could cut this string out, but I like the look of it without the white border on the sides. Then I can layer my branch over top, and then I will add my bird feeder. So I'm going to add my bird to the bird feeder first, and then I will add my bird feeder with some foam squares like it is hanging from the branch. And I'm going to tuck this up pretty high up in there so that I have enough room below it for my sentiment, because that's going to go at the bottom. Now I will go ahead and add this to my lacy rectangle, so I have that beautiful craft frame. But before I put this onto my card with some foam and pop this whole panel up, I'm going to do a little bit of stamping on that background. There are these cute little music notes in the backyard bird feeder sets, so I'm just stamping those in that same River Rock ink, so we have that kind of light gray music notes around. Now I've put my foam tape all over the back of this panel, and I will just pop that right into the center of my card. And I just love the look of this continuous gradient that I got by cutting this out of the center and then popping it up. I can add my Scripty thanks right below. And then this card is mostly done. I decided it needed a little pile of seeds added to the bird feeder. So I stamped one of those and cut it out. And now we have some extra bird seed on the bird feeder. Now, of course, these dreamy cards are not done without a little bit of glitter. So I'm just adding touches of glitter to all the cards. So on the one with the Scripty thanks, I did the leaves and the seeds. I did a little bit on the tops of the birds on the thanks so much. For this one, I'm adding some touches to the leaves and to the bird feeder. Now this one, I added it to the leaves and to the squirrels, but I decided I didn't like that. So you can see I'm just kind of rubbing it off with my finger before it dries, and now they're all unglittered squirrels. So here are all my cards that I created. I just think that they turned out so pretty. I really love that I used the same supplies to make all four, and it all came from one sheet of 12 by 12 paper. And I'm just picking those up, turning them so you can see that shimmer that you get from the gold speckles too, which I just think is so pretty and really goes with kind of the dreamy effect of these cards. So here is a final look at all of these cards together. I just think they turned out so pretty, and I hope it has inspired you to create some as well. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye!